Folks online, can you hear me? Can you indicate in the chat whether you can hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you, but I can also hear the Portland building, like everyone from the Portland building.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. We will be getting started here in just a few. Thanks to folks who have joined online. We're just gonna settle in the room and then we'll kind of call things to order. But appreciate your patience. We just wanted to do a sound check. So we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Okay. All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order. It's May 27th, 2026. This is the public meeting of the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing. This is the steering committee meeting. Thank you all for being here, both online and in person. And we will go ahead and get started with introductions. So I will start over here with our PCCEP members, and then I think we could quickly, very, very quickly hear from who's here in the room with us. And then folks online, we will hear from you as well. So I'll pass it over to Leslie to start.
Okay, Leslie Martinez, the Community Engagement Subcommittee Co-Chair, pronouns she, her.
Pastor Robin Weisner, Chair, full committee and subcommittee.
Kip Silverman, he, him pronouns, full committee co-chair with Pastor Weisner and member of the Policy and Reform Subcommittee.
Tia Palafox, she, her pronouns, and I'm a co-chair of the Community Engagement Subcommittee. Thank you.
And Gabby is online. Gabby, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm the chair of the Policy and Reform Committee. Thank you.
Great, and my name is Dory Gravinsky. I'm the PCCEP program manager, and I'll invite the rest of our staff team to introduce themselves.
Yep, you can't see me, I'm down here. This is Liz Taylor, I'm the PCCEP program coordinator.
Hi, everybody, I'm right next to Liz. My name is Iman Gassemi. I'm the community engagement coordinator. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, folks. I'm Frida Davis, and I'm facilitator of the space.
Great. And yeah, I think that's probably good for introductions, actually. Okay, let's move along. And folks online, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. All right. Tia, would you like to read our community agreements?
Sure. Listen actively and respectfully, share airtime, be present and open to new information and perspectives, assume positive intent, respect each other, respect the group, speak your own truths, communicate directly, honestly, and respectfully, ask questions to clarify, call out bias, be okay with ambiguity.
Thank you. Okay, so getting into the purpose of today's meeting. So this is a steering committee meeting. It's been a little while since PCCEP has had one of these, but this is sort of the executive leadership team for the PCCEP committee. And they're here today to make some decisions about their quarterly priorities. So this is sort of a procedural meeting and internal discussion, but community members and our other partners around the city are super important to this process. So we have some structured time built into the discussion for you to weigh in on what those priorities should be. So with that, I think we will get into a little bit of a discussion about how PCCEP's overall structure works and the purpose of the steering committee, since we are making a couple of changes to some of these things. So, and PCCEP members, and I invite you to participate in this discussion, obviously. Okay, so starting off with kind of taking a look at the overall workflow of the PCCEP committee. We've been having a series of internal discussions over the last month, and especially with the reboot of the community engagement subcommittee and the onboarding of our new community engagement staff, Iman. There are just a couple of, quite a few structural changes that the committee is kind of taking on board here. So I guess I can just run through this graphic to give people an idea of how the steering committee fits into things, and also an idea of how some of the committee components work. And that will help inform our discussion about priorities for each part of the committee as we go on. So the steering committee, as I said, is convened by all PCCEP leadership. And we are changing the steering committee so it will now meet quarterly and check in on those priorities every quarter. So the task here tonight is essentially to identify focus areas for each subcommittee and the full committee over the next quarter. And you can just see a little bit of how information will flow through those different structural pieces. Anything to add here, PCCEP members, or discussion?
No, everything's clear.
Pretty straightforward.
All right. Can move on. So this is some additional context just about those different subcommittees and what their roles are, especially again with the reboot of community engagement. So the idea behind community engagement is pretty self-explanatory for all of these pieces, but generally speaking, you know, they are going to be the body that is conducting outreach and getting community input. And that input will inform the rest of the work that this body does. Policy and reform, they are going to be doing more of that deeper analysis when it comes to PPB policies, city policies, and working on recommendations using PCCEP's formal recommendation power. And then full committee is where it all bubbles up. So full committee is what you could, next slide. What approves the recommendations and also takes care of some other process pieces such as bylaws and governing documents. Yeah, I think that's all pretty straightforward. Anything to add on this, PCCEP members?
No. Very clear.
All right.
You're doing such a great job.
I hate when it's just me talking.
It's just you.
We can get out a little early.
Okay. All right, so I think I already said this, but again, our goal here tonight is, so we will kind of have more of an interactive piece over here as we go. The goal is to identify a maximum of 2 to 3 focus areas per part of the committee over the next quarter to focus on. Yep. All right, so what we're gonna do first is take a look at what's already in the hopper, including taking a look at the last steering committee and what you identified about a year ago, as well as additional ongoing work over the course of the last year. And then we will hear from you all about new ideas that you have, and then we'll hear from community as well on that. Okay, so to start with, could you pull up the
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, about a year ago, this group met, different combination of members, but met and did this exercise. And so what Liz is pulling up now is a report out on, you know, what those priorities were about a year ago. All right, it's pretty small on the screen there. But I thought it was cool looking back at this. You all have accomplished quite a bit of what you identified last year. So for full committee, wait, is that what the first one is? Yes, full committee. You identified the exculpatory evidence recommendation, which you did submit and it was accepted. PCCEP has been codified. That's a huge, huge milestone. So that is completed. You also identified building relationship with Mayor Wilson. I think that will be an evergreen thing. You prepared for the status conference and I'm not 100% sure what number 5 is, but the independent monitor team is here with us tonight, so we appreciate that. Moving down to, let's go to policy and reform next. So you identified some of the priorities you identified were the Trump executive order about consent decrees, which has actually not impacted our settlement agreement here locally. ICE and PPB interactions, you worked on that. A little bit about PPB surveillance technology. Submitting feedback on the PPB directive review process, PPB staffing study, PPB and PPA contract negotiations. You did do engagement around that.
Can I make a quick note? I didn't catch this earlier. Can you scroll back up a little bit?
Yes, and I encourage you to all to speak up a little so we can, they can hear you online.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the ICE and PPB collaboration should be changed to PPB's policies on sanctuary city and operations with ICE. I think collaboration is the wrong word.
I agree, collaboration is the wrong word there, yeah. But that is something that you discussed over the course of the year. Other ideas that came up here that we did not get to this year were PPB recruitment and training policies, PPB budget deep dive. There's ongoing interest in the monitoring gap from spring 2024, consent searches, pretext stops, and at the bottom of the list were school liaison program, PPB's employee information system, CBPA, bias language, etc. And policies around mental health agencies and sobering centers. And I'm just kind of checking in on all of this. I think some of it is completed, some of them will lead to ideas for this round of discussion.
Some of it was discussed, but
But
not.
not acted on yet.
Yeah. And then last one, community engagement. So as you know, we did not have an active community engagement subcommittee this last year, but some of this kind of happened anyways. So PPB community engagement plan, you did not work on. Community education event around settlement agreement origins, you did not work on. Something for the mayor, not sure what that means. So you did talk about PSR and houselessness, positive community of PPB events, PCCEP ride-alongs, which a lot of you completed those this year. James Chassis, Alien Boy follow-up, education about the arbitration process and the public safety budget for this year, which is mostly completed at this point. So most of this, because you didn't have an active subcommittee, you did not get into this last year. Okay, so I don't know how you all want to approach this, but the idea here is to kind of assess like what's on this list, and then also like any things that, so sort of taking inventory here of like, which of these still feel relevant from the ones that are not completed, which feel less relevant right now, and also like what new ideas or priorities do you have as a leadership team? And also invite Afrida to help us kind of with this discussion.
Hop in and kind of help put a little framing around this conversation. Would it be helpful to keep this up or move to the slides right now?
Slides.
Okay, so if we can move back to the slides have some of that information on them, but it's a good place for us to start. And we can begin with the full committee. We can look at what some of those major priorities were from the full committee. Look at what has been accomplished, and then begin a conversation of what else do we want to begin to add up there on the list to begin to think about for the full committee. So if we're looking at that for this slide here, the full committee prioritized PCCEP codification, bylaws review, PCCEP plan revision, engagement with the independent monitor and compliance reporting, presentation to Judge Simon, and the public safety forum with the mayor and the city leadership. Of those, I believe, is there anything up there that was not accomplished?
The PCCEP plan revisions, we didn't really, we talked about it, but we haven't actively started working on it.
Yeah.
So the PCCEP plan revisions was not. So the codification, bylaws, engagement monitor, have a beautiful little spot with a little diamond over here that says that you all completed, accomplished, yay! All right.
I also wonder about the engagement with the independent monitor compliance, because I'm not sure how like thorough that was.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know
the
that much.
Engagement. Does the
Yeah.
IM want to help us
Yeah,
navigate what the,
yeah, like we said engagement with independent monitor compliance reporting, but I don't know, I don't like recall any active like deliverables or things that PCCEP did or like that we worked on together.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of assign or assume deliverables for PCCEP, but I'll just say that on behalf of our team, we love engaging, including with PCCEP. For as long as we are in the position of monitor, we will continue loving to engage in any way that you think is meaningful for PCCEP. And for us, that engagement means more input and voices as we do our assessments, which we welcome always. So insofar as that's in the cards for PCCEP to continue that communication, we're a big yes.
Awesome. Well, maybe I wonder if it was because it was less less structured. That's why it feels like maybe there isn't something there.
yeah.
But I mean, there was like organic engagement. So I wonder if that is an area of opportunity to make
Yeah.
something more formalized so that we can have like consistent touch points and engagement and things like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a good parking lot for future
Yeah.
discussion.
So this is gonna stay up there. Yeah, and did you have something? you wanted to
Yeah, I
add
was
to
gonna
that?
say, I know early on too, it was really helpful, like after our first town hall, it kind of checked in with the PCCEP at the time, like, hey, give us feedback, we'd like to know how we can evolve this, make this better, gave us input on everything from like our presentation decks. So early on, there was a lot of more like direct feedback, engagement kind of sessions, and then I think, yeah, as time went on, it was more kind of, showing up to events that you were hosting and vice versa and engaging in that way. But I think we're always, open to whatever could be helpful for the community and for the groups.
Yeah, definitely.
It might have been that. Another thing that comes to mind is there's been a lot of ongoing discussion about the sort of the transition plan, like for whenever the settlement agreement is not in place. There's been interest in, and the question was actually raised again last night at the town hall. Like how will the city monitor this on an ongoing basis? So I know that idea has come up.
Outstanding. So for the full committee, it feels as if the PCCEP plan revision is something that's still on the table. That's something that you all still want to work on. And the engagement with the independent monitor is actually an ongoing relationship that you want to continue to maintain.
Great.
All right. So if we're thinking about things that we want to accomplish for the full committee, is there anything that comes to mind right now, at top of mind?
Or new ideas, I guess, that aren't on the board.
So just the full
I'm just
committee, we're
kidding.
just going down each
And
committee right now.
I'm saying this because I am in
I
a
do
place
know
of thinking through this and I'm slower in the thinking medication, so, but I do have some ideas, let's like let Tia go think through.
My question is just, are we going through each committee and right now we're only on full committee?
Yes, yes.
But everybody can have input.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Everyone can have input. We're gonna go through each one. And I also understand that like some of the things will be worked on in the smaller, in the subcommittees that will then rise to the full committee.
Right.
Like that's understood, but since we're at the full committee at this point, just wondering if there are any major things that you all want to accomplish with the full committee that we could just put up there temporarily.
Yeah, Gabby has a hand.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thanks. I don't know if, just a thought, is that if the budget cuts do happen, I think it's important that we kind of stay on top of and alert of any like changes to services that people might be experiencing. It seems like the full committee might be a good place to do that. That might come into community engagement too. And it's just something that I think that we should, I don't know, be aware of. I'm not sure if that should go on the board, but that's something I've been thinking about, so.
Absolutely.
That's a good point, Gabby. And also part of what we're gonna do as we get into this discussion is kind of sort. So like if an idea comes up in this discussion and it's more relevant for another part, that's fine. We can figure that out later. Yeah.
Yeah, the two things that I have top of mind that are broad, but I'd like for us to discuss and see if there's gravity going forward with it. One is to Gabby's point, being a piece of it is the values of the public safety system and how Portland approaches public safety from a holistic standpoint, not just from bureau by bureau by bureau. So, and I think that's a level that we can definitely engage with the reformed community engagement and Iman being involved, funneling up to have the larger conversations as what does public safety look like for Portland and how do we bring community in to help inform that and have the larger conversations about it. So that's one big one. The other, which was just top of mind and just went right out the other side. Give me just 1 second. I should have wrote it down. I was about to. I was thinking about this earlier and I'll come back around to that.
Frida, could you add to that post-it, budget cut impacts to service, just so we, like to public safety service, or I imagine PPV service.
Yeah, because I think that's like twofold. It's like how it impacts, like, it also could impact us. The committee and the funding, but also like in the more holistic services available, you know, houseless services and things like that.
The other one was, it just came right back to me, was the coordination between the different public safety community organizations. Having the ability for, I think we should meet with leadership from other committee groups to talk about how we can work with each other. And the B part of that is how do we status each other and make sure that we're informed of what other groups and teams are working on so that we're not kind of in a set of, we're not repeating the whole bubble thing that the city is trying to get out of itself.
Yeah.
So those were the two main things that I had top of mind.
So I heard Portland's value, examining Portland's value of public safety and coordinating and supporting between the public safety organizations.
I just also want to say that second one I really like a lot.
Thank you.
All right, just start next to that second one. All right, other things that are floating to the top. And we will come back. So if something comes up later on in another part of the conversation, we could definitely come back to this. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide around the policy reform.
This was something we started, but the ICE and or the PPP responses to sanctuary cities and things like that. We kind of started that conversation with our PPP liaisons.
Yes.
And we haven't had them follow up yet, but that's potentially something that we could continue to pursue.
Okay. All right. So we'll make sure that's this one right here. So I'm gonna mark that to make sure we got that one. Other items that you all had on that list was the exculpatory evidence directive. Let's see. Oh, ooh, comprehensive. We like that. That's an updated slide, folks, in real time.
Where did those lights come from? Ever since I.
Coming through. I see the light.
So here's a more comprehensive list. We have some of them up here. If we're going down on this list, what have we accomplished in the public policy and reform subcommittee? What are the items we accomplished?
That has been accomplished, right?
Yeah, that we have accomplished within this past year.
Yeah, we did like Leslie was saying, we started the conversations. We had nearly two whole meetings devoted to how PPB manages issues with DHS and ICE and that relationship. There is more to be done there, absolutely, and how it's going to evolve, hopefully, because things are amping up again. The things that I think we would have liked to have gotten into, but with everything else going on, some of the pieces are around privacy and Fourth Amendment kind of things. So the drones, consent searches, pretext stops, those could all be lumped together as far as personal privacy, sovereignty, and how the current state of things is a little bit open and looser on those.
I would suggest, as far as that bucket, I would suggest grouping it in two categories, which would be PBB surveillance technologies and it's really stops practices. I think those are distinct enough that you would want to separate them.
Yeah, stops is really specific though, but stops would be included in some of those things.
As far as the consent searches and yeah, pretext stops.
PPP, surveillance technology. And stops.
And I would say, yeah, consent searches and pretext stops specifically. As noted on this list.
Great, and some of the now some of these other ones that you had up here, the exculpatory evidence directive, PPA contract negotiations, the Q2 2024 monitoring gap, PPB in custody death, Damon Lamar, the training body camps and implementation settlement, that feels like there, PSR's crisis intervention and mental health response. These were some of the ones that were highlighted as conversations that you engaged with over the past year.
Well, we gave a recommendation for the exculpatory evidence.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's follow-up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's more to be done.
Yeah, I would move that to the completed.
Completed?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, excellent.
The in custody death, which there's been a subsequent one since Lamar Johnson.
Eric, sure.
No, thank you. I can't recall the name. One of the, and I guess from a policy and reform standpoint and community engagement, the testament I gave in Judge Simon's courtroom was that if all the changes that we make over time are all positive, right? If they're going in a positive direction. But when the limitations of what the PPB can do get pushed to the edges, we still have the same outcomes, it doesn't really make a huge difference. And I still think that's an important thing to kind of pursue is how do we want to see from a community standpoint, from a policy standpoint, and from a larger, again, public safety standpoint, dealing with when we're getting into a crisis mode and people are called out with guns drawn.
Yeah, so you're saying this conversation that we had about the in-depth custody of Damon Lamar is actually now need to move up to a larger conversation about it
It's
overall.
part of a bigger conversation.
I wonder if it needs to move to full committee, because I would agree. I kind of also thought about the policy of police working with mental health agencies, because
Okay.
if we had the town hall, and then I think what happens is like, then, we get the report that everything was in policy or something like that, but if people are still dying, then something is wrong with the policy and something needs to change. So those are the things that we need to look at. Cause yeah, I don't
They
think
still
so,
don't
no,
know.
but like, but in previous ones,
Okay,
we've
okay.
gotten a full report and it's like, everything's in policy. So like, with this one, I think we're kind of tabling it because the full report hasn't come out. But then also, I think it's important, it happened, there's been other instances where we've been told that there will be follow-up afterwards, and there hasn't been follow-up to the community to explain the findings. And I think that's also an important part.
I agree.
Does this capture what should be underneath the full committee?
It does.
Policy of PBB working with mental health agencies.
So
Reviews.
can I ask why full committee rather than policy?
I feel like each subcommittee has a part to play in the larger conversation as well.
Because I don't think that we haven't decided what, like, I think it needs to be discussed in a larger committee first so that we can identify what each committee needs to act and do. And then it can move down to the individual committees.
Okay.
I
Like,
that.
then we can start talking about what policies and things
Agreed.
like that.
Anybody online?
Thank you, Liz.
Gabby, checking in with you.
Yeah, I like that conversation and I approve. I'm in with it.
Great. Okay.
And these other three, are these ones we want to maintain here, since the conversations have started, or you're moving beyond these pieces in conversation? And Gabby, for your, since you can't see this board, I'm talking about the PPA contract negotiations, the Q2 2024 monitoring gap, and the PSR crisis intervention and mental health response.
I'd like to keep talking about the contract negotiations, because I think we made a recommendation, we only attended one event. It was very quick, like, turnaround, and I don't know that we have made the full impact that we could, or yeah, I think there's some conversation there to be had.
Okay.
Do we get to see the contracts before and after? Like, is our police contracts like public record?
After they're bargained, not before.
Yeah, so like we could compare, like, once it's done, but I think, and Counselor Morello also had, interest in that, so I wonder what was.
Change from that.
Okay, so And just a reminder, we don't need to get too deep into every issue just yet. We just want to get everything on the board. So let's work through kind of the rest of what's on this slide here. I think there are a lot of things that aren't currently on the post-its. And then we do want to have a moment for, or several moments for some public comment, to hear like what's not up here that should be. But yeah, I think there's a little more up here that's not yet reflected.
Did we do the policy of police with mental health agencies? Okay.
Policy of police working with mental health agencies and sobering centers is what it says.
And they put that in full.
Yeah, in that first column there, is anything that we need to go ahead and put up there, up on the board? I know we wanted to reword the ICE and PPP collaboration. That wording is off.
Yeah.
So we have up here ICE and PPP interactions, public order response. So
That's that.
better, okay, all right. The surveillance, that feels like that's the PPP surveillance. Directive review of the directive review process,
Yeah,
currently up for review.
Well, it's no longer up for review. It's been reviewed and now is the new directive review. But I do think that accessibility wise, there are some improvements that can be made to that directive, and also clearer input mechanisms as part of the review process. So, I don't want to take up too much time in the minutia of that.
So I'm hearing there's work that can be done. Is that work that you want that the policy reform subcommittee wants to take up?
As a member of that committee, yes.
We'll make those decisions later. We're just getting it on the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's up to the committee as a whole.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Consent searches and pretext stops for me are maybe a similar issue, and maybe we could like combine those, but I don't see anything else that I would.
I'm looking at recruitment and training policy. Recruitment and training.
In that second column?
The second
Anything
column, I
else to add
see
up here?
the EIS system.
The only other bullet point up there that I think we have questions about is the EIS system, what happens to it post settlement agreement.
I mean, it'd be nice if they got it functioning before.
But my understanding is, and the independent
Yes.
monitor folks may have knowledge of this, but my understanding is that once the settlement agreement goes away, that aspect of the system is no longer required. Is that not correct? Or
I
do
would
we know?
suggest, I think a better way to reflect that concern would be ongoing, like post-settlement self-monitoring
Okay,
of like settlement agreement
post-settlement
remedies.
topics.
Cause
Yeah.
that has come up in,
So maybe a bucket for that. post-settlement.
Monitoring the self-monitoring.
yeah, post-settlement agreement, self-monitoring of
Directive
remedies is
review
what I would say.
And the CVPA.
And also remember, you guys, you're just thinking of the next quarter too,
Yeah.
so don't,
Well, that's what we're planning on getting done in the next quarter.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit all these
Ambitious.
things.
Well, I'm looking
Just kept
at
More
that
power to
point.
you.
No, I did, so point of order on that, I did think that our first meeting was to look at the bigger things so that we can figure out how to parcel it out through additional subcommittee meetings. I didn't think that we were just looking at what we're gonna do in the next quarter.
Only one.
That is what we are doing.
1/4.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the goal is to walk away with some focus
But
areas.
Well,
in
yeah,
that,
at the
but in
end of
that,
the
I think
meeting.
we can talk through
Yes,
everything.
Absolutely.
And then,
That's-
and then narrow it down.
Right,
And
right,
then say
right.
like, this is what we feel like, these are all important, this is what we feel like we can
Yes.
accomplish and focus on.
Okay, that's, yes.
Then-
I
and
think-
We'll talk about everything and then move things around.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, again, we're getting everything on the board. And then we'll continue, then we'll have our first round of public comment, then we'll continue
Yeah.
refining it.
And then this will be the, on the spreadsheet that we look at next quarter.
Yeah. Tia?
I think the school liaison program was what I was hoping could be in the community engagement subcommittee where we're working with school affinity groups and having more meetings in the schools and a project that I started working on during the youth subcommittee that we had a few years ago. So I'm thinking that might move to community engagement,
Sure. I think
but I don't know.
this one, I think that language is referring to officers
Oh.
in schools.
Oh, it is.
So it might be slightly different, but
Oh,
still
okay.
of interest. But I agree with you, that's a good thing to, so should we jump to community engagement?
Yeah, that feels like a great.
Before that was coming
Well,
before
there's still more
ahead.
things
Oh,
there.
is the CBPA code changes. As you got bias, et cetera.
I believe a year ago, this was a little bit more of a current issue because there were some recent changes to the code about the bias clause and that kind of thing. Which I believe are pretty solidified at this point and all members have been appointed and all of that, so I'm not sure it's necessarily a very current issue at the moment.
So, okay. I have some concerns. That's why.
Yes, I
I'm
know a
thinking
lot of
about it.
people, yeah, have concerns. I do think,
And I was wondering if that would go full committee.
I think that could be bucketed underneath the engage with the different organizations
Councils.
part of it
I think,
to share ideas and thoughts. And they're just getting really formed now, the CVPA, so they'll be able to start steering and changing their own destiny once they have, I think the director comes in. I think. Anyway.
okay. Let's jump to our last slide here.
Yeah.
Yep. So for this slide, we have here a number of things that you all have completed, but for the community engagement subcommittee, PCCEP community engagement plan and strategy was on your to-do list this past year. Community education event about settlement agreement origins, the history of the settlement agreements and AMAC with AMAC. Something for the mayor, PSR and houselessness, etc. Positive community and PPB events. PCCEP ride-alongs, additional collaboration opportunities with PPB, alien boy follow-up and intervention with PPA representatives, arbitration processes and education, and public safety budget 2026-27 community ranks.
Dive into something for the mayor, is that?
I think that, I wanna say, I don't know why it got written that way, this is just pasted from that document, but I wanna say that was like, you all were thinking about the event that you were gonna have with the mayor, which you did do in December. I think that that's what that was.
Okay.
Before we get into unpacking these, I would also suggest, because we're talking about the community engagement subcommittee running in kind of a different way.
Mhm.
Another way to think about this for community engagement is less like super topic specific and more like, what are like key groups you know for sure, like you wanna be engaging with over the next quarter or, you know, even in the long term. So that could be a way to think about this section as well.
Before we start, I want to tell everyone that Leslie and Iman and I are going to meet with the community engagement subcommittee tomorrow to talk about our goals and come up with a community engagement plan. together as a group. So it's not just Leslie and I, and get their input as well. So it'll be our entire team. And also a note that I wanted to say before we got started was I keep trying to put my head around or blending up, bringing more people to the meetings and being in the community at the same time while always building relationships. So I feel like it's kind of a fluid situation for me, and so but I want to make goals, but I'm always thinking about community engagement is not only being in the community, but trying to bring more people into the meetings who we haven't really seen. So I'm hoping to reach out to like tribal relations in the community, the Black and Brown community, the mental health crisis, people in mental health crisis organizations in regards to use of force, stops and arrest. Some of the things I was thinking.
Did you write those down?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that
That's
sounds
just
like
kind of a
that's
brick blurb.
and so if we're going off of Dory's suggestion as far as finding different buckets, that feels like a specific outreach bucket is where that one will go. So I can put an outreach bucket and then we can name organizations that we desire to outreach with.
I would also put up there, just because as Tia noted, this very much is in progress and will be a focus, the community engagement plan. PCCEP community engagement plan.
I would almost put that in like a separate category of community engagement subcommittee stuff. Like, I'm kind of thinking like that's a deliverable that is like independent of our other work. So like, I don't know, I'm kind of trying to think about that because like, to your point, I feel like these are things, like if we decide that we're going to, at the end of this, work on policy, a PPD working with like mental health agencies, then it's like, okay, what can policy and reform do toward that, and what can community engagement subcommittee do that? So do toward that. So I don't know that we'll end up with like this is solely a community engagement thing. You get me? So like I almost I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well.
No, you're going to,
but,
I'm following.
but yeah, like so that almost like is a thing we have to do no matter what.
I think what I would say is, if our system is working
Yeah.
perfectly, our structure, the topics would be they would actually probably touch every part of the committee for everyone, but the work should be staggered. So policy and reform and community engagement aren't necessarily working on the same topic at the same time. But for instance, the community engagement subcommittee is doing engagement on a thing. And then you get like input, and then potentially the next quarter, policy and reform is then engaging on that topic, and you all are introducing a new thing.
Yeah.
So I think that would be, so in that sense, for this quarter, as we're getting started, I think it's okay if you all have different buckets going on, and that will queue up some work, and then it's on us to be organized and accountable to that in ongoing quarters as we check in and continue to do this process.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
And this is kind of how it's shaping up in my mind as you all talk about it, is that there's a community engagement plan, but then underneath that, you have the different buckets. And then underneath the buckets, you have more detailed information of like what you hope to accomplish underneath that particular bucket.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to even overthink how we put it on the board. It's just like, okay, we know we're gonna be juggling these things in the
Yeah,
quarter.
just
To me,
visualize it.
here's what I guess I'm saying. I feel like to me, the community engagement plan is almost like an administrative thing.
Yes,
It's not a thing.
but
that
it's
is
still like a totality of
Yeah.
like the work.
That's why
Right.
it, it for me goes, it doesn't count, I guess, towards the 2 to 3 topic things that we're deciding on. That's what I'm saying. Like, because that's an administrative thing of how we run things, like not.
And also a thing to do.
Yeah, and it's a thing that we have to do. No
I'd
matter
say
what.
the only reason it would count is because part of the reason we're doing this prioritization is because we know after, years of being in this for a lot of us, that you all can handle maybe 2 to 3 projects in a subcommittee at any given time. Maybe, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And so if that is one of them, that just will impact your capacity for other things.
I wrote down a couple of topics, but when we meet with our team, is that something we can do is start going through topics or just let things flow?
I think we should start that now. Yeah, so, and I would really suggest, and we can hear some input as well and then continue to talk about it, but,
Also, thank you, Christopher.
Yeah, so I just wanna highlight some items that I did move over into the accomplished, and that was the hiring the community engagement coordinator, the rebooting the subcommittee, and the ongoing outreach and increase the relationship. So I guess that kind of goes back over here. There's something that's ongoing. So those are kind of the things that we moved around. I want to check in with Gabby. Gabby, anything stirring for you or coming up or during this part of the conversation?
Not really. I mean, I'm sort of like, because I'm not there, I'm listening to the conversation. If I had anything to chime in on that I thought needed to be added, I will. But I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay.
One thing to add to accomplishments, because I think that's a big deal, is it's still ongoing though, so there might be more for community engagement to be involved in. The contact survey, they went to request proposal requests, and we're looking to select a vendor. I haven't heard anything in the last few weeks about it, but I think they're going through the whole process. But contact survey work is still moving forward, and that was a pretty huge accomplishment from community engagement prior.
On that, we also did have an initial meeting, at least with Erin Schmaltz of the PPA. So I
That's
think
right.
that was a good step for continuing
Right.
like relationship building. That I would put as maybe like an active thing
Okay.
that
so
we, yeah,
ongoing outreach and increase relationships. Would that fall underneath there?
yeah.
Okay.
And that's just not one category, that's the chief.
Yeah, we also did do like the meetings. with-
Yeah,
Chief
and the
and
chief committee, so all that would be the same.
Yeah. that
That's,
makes sense.
Okay, so if we're looking at, so we're going to this list that's on the screen there. Let's see, the community education about education event. We're putting that up here.
I don't know that, like, I would deprioritize that.
Okay.
Unless we're gonna be doing that as a means to get into communities that we don't speak to.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm looking at these and these to me seem like events and
Yeah.
and we haven't decided what our topics are in order to put us in that position.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could maybe like put some of this aside because
Yeah,
of the way that we're trying to restructure the subcommittee.
I would vote for that, but you
I
know,
agree.
up to like other folks.
I agree. Tia, how does that land for you?
Good.
I'm thinking, would you guys be okay if we opened it up for public comment at this time and then we'll
Yeah, I think
continue?
we're in a good spot. Do we wanna maybe, cause I know sometimes if like people appreciate having a little chance to digest things. Maybe take a break and then take public comment?
Yeah.
Or
Um,
what do you think?
I think with a break sometimes.
Oh,
So I think we might be better to
Hard.
engage.
fair enough,
Sorry.
fair enough, yeah.
You're gonna lose momentum.
Yeah, so I would
Fourth quarter,
say, and
you're
then,
right.
and then maybe we can take a little break,
Well, we'll
but
have public comment at the end again too, right?
yes, we have 2 rounds of public comment. So basically, the idea tonight is that we want to hear from the public now to hear any thoughts you have about ideas that have not come up that should be on the board. And then the steering committee is going to continue to discuss and do some of that ranking to identify like the top couple of topics per each subcommittee and full committee. And then there will be another chance for you to weigh in on that final prioritization, that order of things. So yeah, at this time, I'd like to welcome both folks in the room and online to weigh in and share your thoughts with us on those topics. So if you're online, you can raise your hand. If you're in person, make yourselves seen and we will call on you. I see whose hand is first.
Debbie.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Hi, I haven't been here every minute, so I apologize if I'm repetitive. I spoke to Dory about this last night. It came up at the Independent Monitor Town Hall. They point out on page 85, I think it is, that missed presenting the annual stops data collection report at the PCCEP in the last year. And I would encourage you to put that on your schedule so that you know, it happens every year. You invite the police bureau to come and tell the results of that report. And then the other thing was I was glad to hear the issue of how do we maintain the reforms that have been made over the last however many years it's been. And one idea that I have been thinking about and researched when I was on the Police Accountability Commission is the idea of having an inspector general associated with our oversight system. So I hope maybe that's something you can put on one of your research projects sometime in the future. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Debbie. Barbara?
Yeah, I feel very encouraged by a lot of your topics. Especially the idea of, okay, we've made a lot of progress, but it doesn't seem to be having much effect, and how to bridge that gap. For myself, after watching the Eric Schur takedown, it was so militarized. And I'm wondering if there's somewhere, you know, I mean, it seems like there must be some other way to deal with it. And I, in particular, just as somebody who lives in multifamily housing, am concerned about the impact, the danger to other residents and people that are around, in addition to what happens to the person that is the focus. Mark Porras also, I believe he emailed PCCEP just today about how officers commit violence and they're not held accountable. He particularly was talking about Officer Budworth and how he just yesterday, I think, got his DPSST number back. And he might be promoted even after he, during the 2020 demonstrations, hit a reporter on the back of her head with a billy club. So it's kind of like, how is that happening? I know it's continuous. There's been numerous cases of that, but that's a concern also.
So a topic like use of force during a mental health crisis.
Yes, well, that is important. In these two cases, the reporter she was just at a demonstration. And then Eric Schur, they did say afterwards that he had a history of mental health issues, but he had tried to rob a store with a gun, and he had a gun, so that was the concern. But it turned in he had a handgun and he had left a rifle at the scene of the intended crime. But they came in with these big guns. I think there were 21 shots. They did use 2 kinds of tear gas. They evacuated people. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's got to be a better way. I don't know, you know, I mean, he was just in his house, and some people, but they just wait till he comes out, or I don't know. That would take a lot of time. So I don't know. Some other way besides bringing in, I mean, if you look at the body cam footage, it's a huge, it seems very military. Very military. And I know they're worried about their lives, but does that actually help? Because they try to do some de-escalation, but I can't imagine anybody who was in an apartment with all those basically soldiers outside pointing guns at them if any kind of de-escalation was going to work.
Yeah, so that feels like that's falling under the policy of PPV, working with a mental health response.
Yeah, is there
Maybe-
anything that's missing?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he did have a gun, so maybe they categorized it different.
Yeah, but overall with the, cause you also have your other example, does it feel like it falls underneath there? Is there something else that you feel like is not quite captured?
Well, I think that even when somebody has a gun and is considered dangerous, whether, I mean, I don't know, does the same person go around pointing guns at people randomly? I mean, you could argue that in general, they must have something going on upstairs or lack of. No, it's like whether or not they have a mental health, I mean, I am concerned about them, like with Damon Lamar Johnson, for sure.
Right.
But the trouble is that needs to happen earlier. Hopefully there would be earlier intervention, like with PSR or something. And then, yeah, they escalated that. I saw that body cam footage also, in my opinion, they escalated it. But even if there wasn't a mental health issue, it's the fact that it's made into a big military operation, which pretty much isn't good for the person. They aren't gonna end up going to court, right, and arguing their case. And it endangers other people in the area. Serious, I mean.
So examining the public, the police's response in these more grand public safety incidents, or what winds up being a public safety incident.
I
Yeah.
also heard like accountability around that and like the policies and the things, like the structure itself not preventing loss of life or harm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I heard from what you were saying, that there's a concern that like whatever is currently being implemented is still not mitigating loss of life and or serious harm.
Right.
So
It actually seems like it's increasing almost.
And what the de-escalation trainings are like.
Well, but they said they were de-escalating, but I mean, they just blown the door off with some kind of explosive. And they had these big rifles and they were hollering at him really fast. So,
let's hear from Mark.
so.
Thanks for.
Thank
Is that me?
Chorus, hello.
Hi, thank you so much, Mark Porsey, him pronouns. I'm with Portland Cop Watch, and yeah, thanks for having this session. It's really great. I got here late, so I missed a lot of the initial discussion. But just to follow up on what Barbara was saying about, that February 2026 killing of Eric Scherer, who was in a mental health crisis. Reading through, the police bureau released like 740 pages of police reports or whatever. And so reading through that, it seems that PPB knew in December of 2025 from a separate incident that Mr. Scherer had some mental health challenges. And I don't know, it doesn't look like, at least from the critical incident commander's report, that they actually really took that into account when they planned this high risk warrant service. And I think that is very concerning. There's a lot of things concerning about that incident. And that brings me to another point, which is that, the OIR group who does, periodic reviews of critical incidents, they had been hired in the past by IPR. I don't believe there's a contract in place for them to do any outside reviews. I really would love it if the CBPA will hire them, and maybe tomorrow I'll make that suggestion to them. But there's sort of like they got up to about the year 2022. But what I think should happen is we should start going backwards. And the very first thing they should do is review the most recent incidents, because that's the freshest stuff that's happened. We're still seeing people killed in mental health crisis, and that is really concerning. So I'm not sure where that fits on the board, but that's got to be pretty high on the list. And also there have been suggestions made, and I know there's the suggestion tracker. I'm not sure if that must be on the board, but the CBPA is also going to be making suggestions at some point, and you all are ahead of the game. So I would love to see somehow them benefit from the work that you're doing on the tracking suggestions that have come from all the different oversight groups, including the Training Advisory Council, you know, any other, even internal training recommendations. If the Bureau does not accept those recommendations, like we need to have a history of that and understand why. And that should just be, you just go to a web page and see that. Like it should be really easy, you know. Another thing I dropped in, I just did a little write up on Officer Budworth, who he had a hearing last week, the DPSST's Police Policy Committee, and this was to see if he would retain his certification. So Officer Budworth, people may or may not remember, he is one of just a very handful of officers who have ever been criminally charged for excessive force on duty, and he was charged with a misdemeanor assault 4 charge against a photojournalist during the protests in 2020. And he wound up getting the charges dropped because he agreed to participate in a restorative justice program and he released a public statement. Anyway, this went to the and he wound up getting, apparently, which we probably knew before, but what I relearned, I guess, at last week's hearing was that he received a written reprimand from Chief Day. And so since he received a written reprimand, he did not ever get suspended. So the deal is doesn't lose any positioning for being promoted. And so he's about to be promoted to a sergeant. And this hearing, there's a link to the hearing in this document. It's only 12 minutes long, and it's held by the DPSST's Police Policy Committee, who does very similar work to what the CBPA is going to be doing. They're going to be, you know, reviewing cases, sort of, and case files, and making recommendations. And it's going to be very instructive for them to see this, and it's instructive for the public to see how police accountability doesn't work in the state. And so police accountability is just top of the list for me for all these things. And I think that's probably enough for now. Sorry to talk so long.
Mark, there's a request in the room if you could send that link to the committee, or we could forward it to them.
Yeah, he uploaded a PDF into the chat. I did download it, so I can send it to you guys after.
Yeah. Yep. I also emailed that to you this evening, Dory, but probably got to you too late. Sorry about that.
You're ahead of the game.
Also, Mark, real briefly, since you got here late, we did put on the board the conversation or the idea of connecting with other city public safety groups and doing some cross coordination and education. So it sounds like that is an extra star for that idea from you.
Yeah, for sure. And another, just to pile on one more thing, is that at the state level, there are multiple groups too, and they have a big effect on what goes on here in Portland. So kind of learning what's going on at the state level would be important too.
That's good to know. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I think Charlie is next, and then I see Barb in the room.
Charlie, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just agreeing with Mark on several things that's on my giant list. I'll try to shorten it though. I definitely, especially I am concerned about CBPA getting more information that they need to help them move along. I feel like their training was not providing them all the information they need, and especially from PCCEP. And yes, LESC is the state organization that oversees like standards for all the policing in Oregon, and they're well worth sitting in on. And maybe they would come and do some kind of presentation as well. But CBPA needs to catch up on everything. A lot of them have not been having the experiences we've been having for a few years with PCCEP and all the other organizations. So anyway, beside that, okay, you mentioned that. So I'm wondering, you know, even though I've been around this work, you know, I was on the Police Accountability Commission, and then I was on the community.
Oh, Charlie, you seem to be intermittently muting.
Okay, let me take my hand off the.
Oh, that must be it.
So, I was wondering if there could be something to kind of help us understand city code, because right, city code is law, correct? I mean, that's something I just recently learned. And so how does the city come along and try to make changes to the laws that have been put in place? Jesse, sorry guys, to city code. And how does that work? And then the other thing is, I think, a deeper dive into de-escalation tactics, because it seems like all the de-escalation tactics I've witnessed and experienced and seen, they're violent, and they are also like when they're hollering at you to quit resisting, a lot of those people are not even resisting. They just utilize that. They have to say that like it's a check off, right? Well, we did that and we did that, and like Manny Clark being shot 3 times in the back was deemed a de-escalation tactic. So there really needs to be a deeper dive in those de-escalation tactics. They need to be changed. That needs to be a policy thing. And then the other, something that is near and dear to my heart whenever I'm out there doing public testimony and dealing with this stuff is it seems like we got mission statements, we got moral conduct, we have values, and we have ethics, and who's tracking those? Who's making sure these things are actually happening? Where's like the checkpoints of, okay, are we really doing this? Are we holding these things up to the decisions we are making? Are we really being those ethical people? And it just feels so performative. Although PCCEP, you might be the exception, because I really enjoy your work. I really, like I said before, I feel like you all really care about community, and I'm really grateful to you. But sort of like the police have all these sayings all over their walls in their academy, and I'm just like, I don't see this happening. Where is this? And the other thing is they have a racial equity plan, 5-year racial equity plan. What's happening with that? And how is that being trained? Who's training them? Is it more police training them? Sort of like you see with the mental health 40-hour training. Like, I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. It took me 2 years to get my degree. So how is 40 hours ever going to qualify you for anything? So I really like some of y'all to look into that equity plan and see how that's coming along, and what are their goals, and how do they plan to get there? What are the strategies? Because it was one little tiny sentence on their annual report. So those are just a few of the multitudes of things I could share. I'm not feeling well. I shouldn't be up, but anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. We appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Can I respond to Charlie's equity?
I think, is it very quick? Because we'll be responding to all the public comment after, so there'll be more discussion.
The only thing I was gonna say is that community in the last community equity training I was in and partook, we had Mr. Washington educating and talking about Vanport and Brody, and from what I observed, even my participation in continuing to talk with those young officers, was very impressed with the equity thought of where and the sincerity of what was being trained. So just wanted to respond to that for you, Charlie.
Thanks for sharing that. I know Barb, you had a hand? Yeah, go ahead.
I had a hand. I was waiting till Pip came back, actually.
Oh, dear.
No, because contract surveys were at the top of my list. So I'm glad they're not forgotten and you have your eye on them. I want to second Mark's comments in general, but especially about pushing for the CVPA or somebody to hire the OIR group to do the ones that are missing. I don't even, for the ones since the last report, and the two that were left out of the last report, I wonder if we're ever gonna get them if we don't have a contract with with those people, with the OIR people. The thing on there that you weren't sure about, the working with the monitor thing, I'm wondering if it was a data thing and a quality assurance kind of thing that you guys were either wanting them to present differently or something around that. And I know TAC is also interested in quality assurance, if anybody else is, to work with them. Obviously, it's too late for the Alien Boy follow-up, but I wasn't there, but from what was planned, I find that really disappointing that there wasn't good something afterwards, because I've seen it and I know what it's like. So I hope that part of it doesn't get repeated. The SOPs for responding to mental health facilities, I believe, are like to be reviewed in like November, because we're going to talk about them at the BHUAC, which is the Behavioral Health Unit Advisory Council, in July. So that would be, if you guys want to get on that bandwagon, that would sort of be the timing for that. And if I remember right, we took this stuff about like the Cheers van and that kind of stuff that was outdated. We took that out so now they're probably, unless they've added it back for this, the sobering center part like was removed. So that's gonna have to be put back in. So you guys could probably have some good say in that. And then the whole idea of self-monitoring has bugged the bejesus out of me from the beginning. And I am wondering who and how in the future things like the hippie slide are going to be sought out and found out, because that came through the city attorney's office because they had to give stuff to the DOJ as part of the settlement agreement. Who's going to be watching over that? And tracking, the last thing was tracking new and old, the things you send them that start with R probably.
Recommendation.
Thank you.
We,
I'm getting old.
I feel you.
So there's some that have been done as PCCEP since COAB, that you might want to look into just to see if they're being followed, if they said they were going to follow them.
Well, that's the goal. And actually I sent you an email to 2 different emails. So, because I remember you offered to help us kind of dig into some of those recommendations. So maybe after this we can.
Yeah, I don't remember getting them if I did.
Yeah, no, all good. So that we can connect and then kind of look into those, because the record keeping was terrible. And one of the things that has been holding up us getting the tracker up is us needing to figure out what those recommendations even said, what the context was around it and things like that. So I'd love to schedule some time with you to like look at those things in depth.
I'm happy to do
yeah,
that.
so let's
and happy to maybe point you in the direction. Have you reached out to Judith?
I haven't reached out to, it'd be great. Like maybe we can, we'll connect maybe
We'll
on the
connect
break
after
or
this,
after.
or during a break if we get one.
During the next break. I'd love to.
Yeah, I do feel a trend from what I've been hearing from you all, thank you, or of post-settlement agreement monitoring and standards. And how do we frame what that should look like before it's done?
Right.
So I think that's a trending topic.
Mark, isn't there a, before being sustained for the question that Barb had in monitoring like what was happening in the training area, a vehicle that's supposed to be successfully input before it is even monitored, and that is after the settlement agreement?
I'm not sure I understand the question fully, so, but the settlement agreement really has a couple of stages to it. You mentioned one of them, Barb, so after a couple periods of maintained substantial compliance, paragraphs can move into self-monitoring status. The Bureau monitors itself on those paragraphs, and our team evaluates their efforts to do the self-monitoring. We work with them on the self-monitoring plans that they're going to execute, and we review what they did. If they maintain substantial compliance, and maybe this is where you're getting at, Pastor Weisner, for 2 reporting periods, 2 semi-annual reporting periods, groups of paragraphs called discrete sections can be eligible for termination. Once they're terminated, there's no further monitoring of them by our team or by the city. They're terminated from the agreement.
So is there someone online that talks about that system?
Pastor President,
Okay.
I think I can answer that question. I think what you're asking is, isn't there a plan for this already? Kind of. So the way, what I've heard in conversations with our city attorneys is in part, self-monitoring itself is supposed to set the city up for long-term success, and that we are building systems for the city to evaluate itself on an ongoing basis during this off-ramp with the settlement agreement. So I believe that is a part of why self-monitoring is a thing. I think some of the larger questions that people are raising are, how do we know the city will continue to do that? How will that be evaluated as far as if it's robust reporting, that kind of thing. But I do believe the concept of self-monitoring is to create that long-term, the city will keep doing this kind of thing. At least that's what's been described to me.
So with that bucket being in the sub-policy or full committee, how would you combine that with continuing?
I think we should talk about that in our next discussion. Yeah. I think we have time for a couple more public comments if there is any.
I think I have a prefacing question because I'm not able to make it to all of your meetings, so apologies. I'm curious, how much do you all address perceptions of safety of Portlanders? Just especially during this budget cycle when we're seeing reductions to different bureaus. I'm just hearing a lot of fear of safety, even though statistically we are more safe, right? And so I'm curious how, especially for community engagement, how are you engaging with people who are feeling really unsafe, but may not know about PCCEP and may not, So just wondering, is there a metric for community perceptions of safety? Determining, and I know there's research on this, but then determining what are structural and infrastructural things that could be addressed before resorting to police interventions or police alternatives. Just curious what you have on that, if there's research, and then wondering if that can help guide community engagement, because I just saw so much of it in outreach, in testimony.
Community engagement.
Yeah, I think. Does anyone want?
I hear a lot when I invite people to attend our meetings is, if police are going to be there to discuss, I don't feel safe. So I'm trying to figure out how can we bring people to the meeting and how are we ever going to bridge that? So it is a hard discussion, but something that I hope we can keep building relationships to say we're making it as safe as possible. And I don't, I know we have police liaisons. I'm not sure what meetings the liaisons will be attending, but I feel like we all need to be at the table. And police and community, because police is our community, but it's a challenge.
I think that's something that we can kind of think about as we put into our plan, our community engagement plan, because right now we just started it. So we don't know right now what we are even measuring yet, or like we haven't defined what we're measuring, but I think that's a good thing for us to start trying to like to figure out like a KPI of sorts. It's like, are people really, how are people feeling? Is it a perception of not being safe? Is it like rooted in like more education needed? Is it rooted in more resources needed? Like where does that come from? And that's something that we're trying to do in this new structure, be more proactive in the community to identify what community needs are, to identify where the gaps are, and then as a committee make recommendations around it.
I think that's a really, really helpful frame
Yeah,
for,
that is
for
definitely.
community engagement, because that kind of gets to the core of, like, we know that there are some communities that are under policed, some communities that are over policed. And people have a different relationship to public safety and police depending on those perceptions. So, and then also I think that dovetails with some of the larger interests in the broader public safety system and interventions and that kind of thing. So I think that that is, for you two, really, really helpful frame as we continue this discussion, like, and that could be sort of a guiding light as far as determining who you're engaging with and what those priorities should be.
Does that help?
That does help. Then it's just a quick suggestion, like there are some pretty large, like public works projects happening that can affect perceptions of safety, like the 82nd corridor project. So I'm hoping that and like, generally following the gentrification patterns of the city can help give an idea of how adding things like streetlights or things like that can add to perceptions of safety versus just needing to spend more and more and more money on police.
Yes, that's a very good point, because I think one of the things we're trying to, and that's kind of what we're getting at with like coordinating with the larger safety, like the community safety organizations out there and things like that. One of the things we talked a lot about is resources for folks and offering them, information and resources and things like that. And that could also be a bigger part of what we do as a committee, because we do see ourselves as more of like, not just, our mission is our mission based on the settlement agreement, but I think a lot of us are in this work because we have an appreciation for a larger community safety vision. So,
yeah, it just came up a lot today, especially with the face covering ordinance around like over promising what police can do. And I think that's something that community engagement would really help.
A lot of it doesn't have to, and that's, I think we've talked a lot about that for like years. I think it's like in the sense of like, police are doing too much. And I think, they've also admitted that like they're not meant to do all the things that they've been tasked to do, but people don't know who else to call and like what other resources are out there.
Can we do a survey with PSU? Did PCCEP do one before, or was that the city around safety? Remember?
PCCEP did one years and years ago.
I think PSU has a school of something that did a survey or like
Core services.
What?
It was core services.
Yeah, but I think that framing, especially, we brought on our new community engagement coordinator, Iman, and so we're really kind of diving into just like developing this outreach and engagement strategy, and I do feel like that resonates, I think, brings together a lot of the discussions you all have been having.
There are a couple hands up, but to add on to that briefly, a few months ago, we did have a meeting where some of I think it was a rep from BOAC and others were really eager to leverage whatever resources there were to educate the public better about resources out there. So I think that is definitely a thread that needs to be continually pulled.
I want to throw this in there with that thought, because right now we don't have a safety director. And this is the question community is asking. What does that look like going forward? And we really need to make sure that if PCCEP and the community is asking that question about what the city is going to look like and the perception of it, that should also frame the new director of that as well. And I think that's important.
Yeah. I saw Gabby's hand up. Do you still have a comment, Gabby, or question?
No, I just want to say that no.
Okay. I think we have time for maybe 2 more comments here, if there are more. So Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking one of the things that it's really concerning when you say police accountability. That's always reactive, right? That's after somebody's already been killed or excessive force has been used on. And I think they need to. I think they're hoping that this acts as a preventative measure, but I think they need to use that wording more and take more action around preventative measures. And also, like I'm always saying, over resource instead of over police. We got to start meeting people's needs. And when people's needs are met, then they're less likely to be, I don't know, making bad decisions maybe. And so I also found, while I'm out here and around, so far nobody I've talked to and interacted with, because I do a lot of distro with the unhoused and other folks, know about Portland Street Response. It's nowhere. It's not posted anywhere out here in the public. And so that's something that really needs to be addressed. And as far as community engagement with the police, until things change, I don't see that happening unless you do some kind of like affinity groups with, bring community members. Like we had some amazing community members come to our Police Accountability Commission meetings, and it was all the members from that neighborhood. And that was amazing. You got to start somewhere, and trying to bring them all together. I don't see that working. Anyway, just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Charlie. Any final comments in the room or online?
Did we put up there, I don't wanna forget that, like the the PPB community engagement plan and the racial equity plan?
All right, so I think that'll wrap up this round of public comment. So are you all wanting to take a break? Okay, we're gonna take a quick break, and then after we get back, we are gonna get into trying to prioritize those top few topics per section. So we hope you stay with us, but we really appreciate your input so far. Thanks for engaging with us, guys. So we'll be back at, let's say, we'll be back at 7:45. Yeah. All right, sorry folks online for the delay. We had some bathroom breaks, but we are settling back in over here. Okay, so as we said earlier, what we're gonna do now is, so we collected a bunch of new ideas from that first round of public comment. Thank you all. And now we are going to kind of sort through. So that'll include assigning like which part of the committee we think something should live in. And then also like identifying like what feels most urgent right now, especially to kind of get the ball rolling. At the start of this, it's kind of the new year for us. We kind of go with the fiscal years with the city. So yeah, let's just dive in. How should we structure this? Should we go part by part, steering committee members?
Yeah, so they suggested, or what was been offered to, as an order, is to prioritize the full committee conversation and identifying what priorities should be there and then moving on to the other committee. But I hear you also naming the need to make sure things are in the right place. So we did a little bit of that while we were on break and moving things. So
okay,
we can check in briefly on if anything needs to move, and if nothing needs to move, we'll jump right in on the full committee prioritization. That,
yep, let's start there. Yeah.
All right. So committee members and Gabby, we're gonna pull the camera around so you can kind of see as well. So full committee, what we have on the list here is the PCCEP plan revision, engage independent monitor compliance, or continue to coordinate with the public around safety organizations. That's to include and call out the CBPA. Budget cuts and impacts to PBB and its services. Portland's values of public safety, policy of PBB working with mental health agencies, tracking recommendations from advisory bodies, tracking old and new recommendations that come from PCCEP, tracking reporting from self-monitoring, city code education, and also again on the public safety values alignment, and recommendation for an inspector general. For the next committee, or the subcommittee, what we have listed here is ICE and PBB interactions and public order response, stops consent and the stop status report, PPA contract negotiations, accountability of PPB policy impact, de-escalation tactic examination, PPB surveillance technology, training body cams implementation settlement agreement, directive reviews, PPB recruitment and training, EIS system, post-settlement self-monitoring remedies, Q 2024, monitoring gap, PSR crisis intervention and mental health response, and school liaison and PBB in schools. And lastly, on community engagement subcommittee, the PCCEP community engagement plan, underneath outreach, a list of number of different organizations.
This meeting is being
recorded.
Well,
I was that person in a
there we
different
go.
meeting
I was
earlier today.
trying to take pictures and then put them in the chat, and I thought it'd be easiest on my phone, but it wasn't. So proceed.
And identifying key stakeholders and affinity groups, ongoing outreach relationships, school liaison engagements, encompassing the community perception of safety and utilizing the public works and also gentrification tracking in order to help with that perception. See PPB community engagement plan and racial equity plan. Anything needs to move. Yes, there's a question in the chat from Mark that states PBA contract negotiations is the.
We can follow up. We can follow up with Mark about that.
Exactly.
Later. Yeah.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Gabby.
The equity, we had already talked about doing some stuff around that in the policy. I think that you said it was under community engagement, so we are going to be covering that anyway. So that seems like everybody wants to do it, that's fine, but I think we're gonna be dealing with some of those things. Some of these topics, like in the individual post-its, seem like they could sort of be grouped. There were so many, it's hard to think about, but there were some that, like, as we were talking about it, I'm like, well, this all kind of goes together, and I feel like policy has already had discussions about dealing, addressing them.
Okay.
I'll let other people talk and I'll listen so I could write them down.
Gabby, is there anything not on this board that you want to be under the policy possibilities, the priority possibilities? Because that should be reflected up here if so.
Well, the police recommendations I want to be under policy. And right now it's under the main thing, and we will be talking about it, but policy is going to be, like, we've already discussed dealing with that. Diversity and equity, we're going to be dealing with that. And I hadn't thought about, like, training practices, but I think that that's a great aspect of it.
Me, so like the way that I would also think about the training policies is like, before it can get to policy and reform, it would have to be a community engagement subcommittee or like input. But, or.
For which one?
For.
Training.
The training.
For training. If we were gonna have like education around it and, understanding what currently happens, is that?
I mean, everybody can work on it. Police training is a really important thing, and there's a lot of different aspects. And honestly, like, we don't even really know what they're doing. So maybe all hands on deck. Sounds great to me.
Well, not so much as all hands on deck, but like where we are starting the conversation. So like, to your point, we don't know what they're already doing. So to me, that sounds like an information gathering thing where community engagement and, PPB engagement is involved and, bringing together that knowledge, but like maybe that happens in the policy and reform subcommittee meetings.
Yes, yes.
As you're describing it, Leslie, to me, that sounds like more something that would live in policy and reform.
Okay.
If it's connection with city partners and getting information rather than getting information from the public.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that information lives with the public. I mean, I definitely think getting feedback on patterns that the public is seeing is going to come through community engagement.
So let's go ahead and focus. Oh, go ahead, Gabby.
No, I was just going to say, so because we had an internal meeting, and just some of the things that had been mentioned were like the specific, like there was like 3 things that we had specifically discussed. So I just want to make sure that those things, as I've talked with the whole policy committee, kind of stay at least partially under policy, which would be police directives, hiring and equity, and we had talked about, I should know this off the top of my head.
So it's police directives, is that directive review?
Sorry, stops as well. We had talked about working on stops data.
They are, yeah, so we have stops data, we have the training, we have the directive review, and we have the PDB community engagement plan and racial equity plan, all underneath the policy and reform subcommittee.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's focus in on the full committee now. And to your point, Gabby, there's a number of things that can be lumped together. I'm feeling that the conversation around examining or looking closely at the values of public safety kind of falls under line this conversation around the city code, education and alignment, and just seeing where the agencies are aligned with their mission, vision, and values. So that feels like that's all fair. Okay, so you all have engaged in these conversations in different iterations at different times. What right now is present as priority? Some work that you want to immediately get started on?
The policy, I recommend, yes.
the policy of PPP working with mental health agencies. Okay,
Yeah, I think that even kind of fits under the public safety values part of it, right? So I think I like the idea of us having some focuses on because we've talked about how it's just a miasma of different interagencies and intragovernmental finger pointing. So I think it is a good thing to look at as a value system and public safety as a whole. I think that is something we could start this quarter. I think also top of my list is going to be the PCCEP plan revision work and starting that conversation as well.
so what I'm hearing is that this would pair best with do we have the in custody deaths on a note?
No.
That came up several times in public comments, because this should go with that.
In custody there.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is,
so
we didn't put it specifically, but it is.
it is, yeah, so
Yeah,
it was.
but
I think
moving
for
the
my
conversation.
thinking, we should write it, that one down too. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
But I do, and that's why I think when I was talking about, I said it, there's part and parcel across all the different committees on the policies around it and the settlement agreement and post-settlement agreement. Because
that's where
I
the
don't want-
origination is
Right,
starting from. Yes.
exactly. And if we haven't seen a huge outcome, a huge change in the outcomes on the most extreme cases, what are we gonna do next?
Yeah.
Which is where I think the values thing comes into along with post-settlement agreement work and PCCEP plan revision, because that talks about how we're gonna be able to engage on the future of how all this comes together. Does that,
Agree.
okay, I hope I'm making sense.
No, I'm in line with it. I just wanted to hear everybody else's thoughts.
I think, so here's the thing, I think every one of these topics touches every part of the committee. I don't think that's what's in question. I think what's in question now is where should these things start in a way that like the committee can wrap its head around, like to dig into something. So a follow-up, so I would sort of say there's maybe a desire to like put 6 notes in like one bucket, but I don't think that's gonna help you guys. I think actually a little more specificity, especially if it comes to policy review and stuff like that, might be more helpful. And then I have a follow-up question as far as like, when we say values of public safety, I understand the conversation, but what does the work look like?
That's a conversation we need to have, is how do we engage with the new public safety bureau system? I can't remember the word. I've been in meetings since 6:30 a.m. But I think that's the conversation we need to have, right? Is how do we engage with how the bureaus are restructuring themselves and what their focuses are, along with the work City Council is doing and the work that we see us changing our plan fitting into it. That's why I think it's a big bucket, and we can add the smaller pieces against the big bucket because we know that they're going to fall into that. And through those conversations is where specific work is going to come out that would go to policy and reform or go to community engagement.
I'm wondering, like, is like one of the action items is to figure out what we're gonna do about that in the next quarter?
To start the conversation on it, not solve it maybe in the next quarter because it's a big thing. But if we could start the conversation about some of the big topics gather some information on it beforehand, present it out to PCEP and the community and say, here's what we're envisioning going forward. What do you all think? And based on that input, we can say, okay, there's work here for policy and reform, there's work here for community engagement, there's more work for full committee or the co-chairs in the background to go have conversations with DCAs or whatever it's gonna be, I don't know. But
Well,
I don't want to start small and then build to big. I want to have, what is our goal, main goals, and then how do we start breaking it down into something achievable?
I get what you're saying. But I think as far as the goal of this project, we are trying to parcel out some of it now, right?
Okay, but we're premature to do that on some of these things. We have some large ideas.
And there's a lot of specificity on the board.
On the
Gabby?
smaller things, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just want to like, I think right now we're talking about like police values and safety values, which to me is going to be like the implicit work that we do. Like we will be reflecting that by all the other work that we do.
Mm.
Like that is our goal, is to sort of like show what the values are. But I think that's like a lot of work, like that is our big goal. And that's why we are crunching data and like getting feedback from the community,
Yeah,
right?
so can, I
But
just,
it can be discussed.
one shift on that thought, that I'm not talking about our values, I'm talking about the city's values.
Oh, Gabby, you went on mute again.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that like when we say that these are the way the police recommendations have changes and these have traffic stops have changed, and this is the public perception of like, you know, safety in their neighborhood, I think that we will be describing what the values of the police department are and the city.
I'm hearing.
But you got a yes, Kip, in that, so.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think there are two different angles that we're talking about. So, but
Yeah, I'm also hearing you both talk about different things though, because I get what you're saying, Gabby, that like what we do on all these other topics impacts like the city values and the police values. But I think what Kip is talking about is in the actual tangible structures of like the different departments. How is PCEP going to work within that, and where do we fall in to that kind of workflow?
that's part of it, yeah, and also understanding what their goals and intentions are so that we can adjust our work to meet it. If that makes sense.
I think like for me, that is still too theoretical, not the right word, but I think that touches the coordination with public safety organizations. And to me, that's an actionable thing that we can start working towards, because like that in the upper right hand corner, because those are like, we know there's organizations out there that we need to coordinate and talk and speak with. So to me, yeah, that's still intangible, but that's concrete.
Okay, what about this? So is there agreement for full committee that one priority is starting to dig into the PCEP plan?
Yes.
That needs to be revised.
Yes.
It's a big project. And then another priority is, which is related potentially, is learning more about what it really is the city realignment, public safety realignment.
That's the word.
And how that is going to impact everything. So I would say those are two pretty good focus areas for full committee, and quite honestly, way more than enough for one quarter and would be ongoing. So I would suggest, I think those are good if there is agreement on that. And then I would also suggest, one thing you do have to figure out this quarter, and I would honestly add it as like a separate post-it up here, but is your upcoming meeting with Mayor Wilson, probably to take place sometime in the fall. So starting to plan that now, and maybe what we're saying is we would wanna do an event like the engagement with the mayor this time around might be about that realignment. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, that fits.
Yeah.
Also, if we start this work now, we have a conversation also potentially when we go into Judge Simon's courtroom in July too.
Yes, that means, okay, so, cause that's the thing, there are some known things we have. We know we're going to court for the status conference. We know we have the meeting with the mayor. And we know we need to revise a PCCEP plan. And so as an overlay to all those things, I think like sort of a research project of like understanding more and doing community education potentially about public safety realignment is a good goalpost.
I think that's right.
Or guidepost.
What does public safety realignment mean?
It's quite honestly, it's just a mess. It's just like the city, so you know, we have a new form of government.
Right.
And then we also are doing this like, so through that process, a lot of things have been reorganized. And so public safety is now more consolidated under one service area. So police, fire, Office of Violence Prevention, like everything's all together now, so which is new. And now they're also doing like more realignment to basically right size things. It's more complicated than that, but it's all related to the big city transition that we're in. Yeah, and also very related to like alternative response and like where things go and how they work together. Yeah.
Quick question, so the coordinating with public safety orgs, should that be full committee or could we put that in community engagement? Cause I know that that's a broad thing, but it also is about relationship building and things like that.
Coordination as.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's in the right spot.
I mean, it could. I was just thinking of it from what groups are out there, the TAC, CBPA, FitCog.
Advisory.
Right.
So
Just
yeah,
having conversations with them about how they want to maybe work together. I don't know if it needs to be community engagement.
Well, well, cause we've talked about community engagement in a couple ways. There's like the community engagement that we do where we bring in stuff in, but then there's also what Iman is doing, which is like creating those relationships in the different areas. And so like so what we're doing is more outreach. And what Iman is doing is like, that's the opposite, you know?
No, he's doing outreach, you're doing.
Thank
engagement.
you, yeah. So so to me, that falls under what Iman would be doing. But, you know, I could be thinking.
I think if there is a desire, let's say to have some sort of annual symposium with all the advisory bodies
Yeah.
or something, that's a great idea to have in the hopper and could be full committee. If it's more like ongoing relationship building, like saying, what's up? What are you guys doing? What are you working on? That might
Bumper
have.
cars,
I
yeah.
wrote to have a picnic.
Sure, yeah, but so like I think it just depends on how you wanna look at it.
For me, it would be more, I mean, it could be both, but
I want to start with getting to know each other
Yeah.
and developing a structure.
to me,
And
so-
then
Good
the,
move.
yeah,
how the meetings happen, then that would be more maybe community engagement stuff. But I think just getting a agreement that that we need to work with each other and how we inform each other. I think you have the technical unfun things.
yeah, but that's, I mean, I'm not saying that, to me, that is still Iman's role because those are not things that we are going to be like, those are things that, you know, I'm not
We
speaking for
invite
you,
you to it.
but like, we're not, going to a barbecue or something like that, but before we kind of, we have to build relationships in order to agree to work with each other.
I don't want to rat hole on it.
Yeah.
It's just my thoughts of where Iman's gonna be spending most of his time is working with organizations and not necessarily city affiliated entities necessarily.
Yeah.
But because, I don't know, that that's a greatest use of his skills and time.
I would say,
Because people who work for the city are very different.
so we only have about 15 minutes. We need to move it along, so I
Anyway.
would say makes sense to keep it in full committee, but it's probably not a top. We can figure it out. on an ongoing basis is probably not one of the top 2 priorities, because there's already a lot on the plate there.
Yeah, I agree.
But it feels like the top ones you're going to focus on is the PCEP plan revision and the understanding public safety realignment.
And I'll just add a few more that are known entities, that we can move on to policy.
The mayor and
Yeah.
the judge.
Okay.
We didn't review the bylaws.
We just did bylaws in November. We have need a PCEP plan before we do.
Okay, moving on to policy and reform. And I'll lean on Gabby for this to start with, as you are the chair. What feel like the top sort of 3 priorities for you? Can you see it?
You're on mute, Gabby.
Your microphone is not on.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's right behind you.
Yeah, just not snapped.
Can you unmute?
Apparently not.
Can you type it in?
I think that's a lot to type.
All right.
There
So
we go. We got you.
yeah, I joined on my phone.
Okay.
So unfortunately I can't bring up the picture now. I thought it was on my computer. I think my computer is like kind of crashing as we speak.
Okay.
Let me here. Oh gosh. Let me see if I could bring it up in my phone. I'm sorry, Kip, why don't you say something?
Well, you've said too much. No, I know one of the top things was the stop, state and reporting that you wanted to start unpacking. That was a big one.
Oh, this is so annoying. Yeah. So I will say, I mean, like, why does this happen right when I need it to happen?
Gabby, based on our conversation, the things that you elevated were, you were talking about policies surrounding in custody deaths and following up on that.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. Go on.
You were talking about hiring and diversity at that initiative. We were talking about, stops did come up.
Okay, so am I echoing for you guys or am I?
You're unmuted on your computer now.
Are you on your phone?
This is insane. Okay. This is a nightmare. I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry. The Lord has said no. I'll let you guys talk it out.
It's okay, Gabby. If you can put in the chat, I remember those 2. I feel like there were 3 or 4. I can't remember the other 2 off the top of my head. It's really bothering me.
Is there anything around the training? Is there, because of the 4 that Gabby named that wanted to make sure was in the policy reform. It's
Okay.
these 4.
I'm back.
For that.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. So thank you, Abrita. Yeah. So we had never discussed the training before, but I think that that's definitely a great addition. That does seem tied in to contracts a little bit, but I don't need to get too ahead of that. I think the 3, we're going to look at equity. We're a little unsure if we can get how much information we can get about that. And so that might go to the wayside, but right now that is one of the top priorities. The data collection would be one of the top priorities, except that's probably not going to come up for a couple meetings. We do have like the next, I think, 2 meetings kind of figured out. And directive reviews are gonna be ongoing. So, I mean, the whole, like, so the way that I'm sort of looking at this is like, I'd like to take all of these and address them in a meeting. Like, these can all be addressed over the year. And like, but it would be sort of like a one-time sort of deep dive into the state of like surveillance, for example, with PPB. Does that make sense? Am I answering this question incorrectly?
No. Framing a major topic for a meeting makes total sense.
Yeah. And some things I'll just say some of these things do seem a little bit like they go together. But like de-escalation tactics examination, that's also going to be probably like in with training. So what I'd like to do is like take this picture and sort of reorganize it and like give a plan of like how I would address these. But these all seem to be under policy. But there's like, yeah, like equity, which we don't know if is going to come out, police directives, stops, and then it seems like training is the new thing, and a bunch of things are going under that.
I guess the question is like, which of these, because I agree with you, like having one dedicated meeting over the course of a year makes sense, but which of these are the three that you want to focus on in this next quarter?
Right, yeah. Well, we're going to hopefully be discussing equity. We will be discussing directive reviews in the next meeting. And I mean, hopefully we probably will be discussing the contract negotiations at some point this quarter. I'd like to deal with some of these other ones as well, but those are the ones that I think we would definitely will be dealing with.
So Gabby, what I put up here, based on previous conversations and what you just said, is that diversity in hiring, stops, policies around de-escalation, training, et cetera, and that is in tandem with in-custody deaths, PBA contract negotiations, and directive review, which might be smaller ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot. The thing about the stops is that I haven't actually looked at the stops data yet, and I don't know when the last report came out. So like, I'm kind of saying that because we have talked about it, but I haven't even looked at when the next report is coming out, or when the last one came out.
The stops data just came out.
Just came out.
And it was like, it's not final, right?
The quarter came out.
Yeah,
The annual report is not out yet.
It's annual reports in the fall, right?
Historically.
Okay.
But they could not tell me exactly when it would be released.
Okay.
That's promising.
The community meeting thing too.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Bar?
I said the community meeting thing too.
Around the stops.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, the chief has to run by you guys before he can shout it to the world and then.
Because historically, that's what happened, Gabby, like we host a meeting to, kind of similar to what the independent monitor does, to like review the report with the community, and that hasn't happened.
Okay. Well, that sounds great then. We will work on that. That will probably be at the end of the quarter, because we actually haven't really discussed that as a group yet, but I mean, if that's what's been going on, then that's what we'll do.
I think the important thing is, and sort of this exercise is like making sure that as a leadership team, everyone supports these priorities that the subcommittees are going to be working on. So even if we can't fully narrow it down tonight, and we have a good menu of options that you're in alignment on, I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, sorry, Mike. I mean, I think, so like I said, the three things that we've discussed, equity, directives, and we vaguely discussed stops, but we had also talked about looking at the recommendations and how they had gone. Like if there's like a police complaint.
Oh, that's right.
Recommendation around that. We want to start tracking recommendations. So that is what we as a committee said we were going to work on. looking at all these things, some of them fall under that. I think that since that is what we discussed, I want to say that's what we're going to do. It's not that I want to say that we're not ignoring these Post-its, but that's what we had discussed. And some of these will fall into them. And I want to discuss them individually when we're talking about these other things.
Okay. All right. I think we're in an okay spot for policy and reform. We have like 5 minutes. I want to.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry.
No, it's not you.
It's all me.
I want to try to get us out of here as close to on time as possible. So community engagement, let's move on. This one, unfortunately, I feel like we need the most direction on.
I don't know that we do, because I think like what we had talked about was like, okay, I have, I guess, 2 questions. Do any of these things currently on here that we have prioritized, are any of them in need of community engagement? And if so, then like, if not.
If so, then I think it could be a question for next quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so I think then the next thing is like, what should our priorities be for community engagement? Because if I'm not mistaken, part of the new plan is that community engagement helps source ideas and topics.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't necessarily think that we need to like work on any of this. Like we maybe just need to identify like where do we want to start? Like do we want to have a community engagement, like where do we want to start our because the plan is for us to be in community with our meetings. So where do we want to focus in the city? Where do we want to focus in a community wise? Like so I think we can talk through that and just kind of identify.
Yes, totally agree. I think what will help, so think of this as what will help Iman in this next quarter as far as like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna really like hit these things, like hit the ground running with like these communities, these neighborhoods, whatever. So like, what's sort of the strategy for this quarter? What are the priorities as far as like how you wanna direct his work and where you all plan to be in space and community?
And I think that's a conversation for the entire steering committee.
Yes,
Not just
agreed.
Tia and myself.
Yeah. So if we could figure that out in like 4 minutes, which I think we could probably.
Is that, how is that connected to the community engagement plan?
Oh, so the plan is already on there. That's
Yeah,
priority.
that's up there. That's the
Okay, so that's priority, and then identify key stakeholders and affinity groups.
That's now.
That's what now, okay.
So would we still think, but we never defined age, youth?
You didn't define age.
You didn't find what that looked like.
Go ahead, Gabby.
Who is I'm sorry, the school liaison engagement, is that like, who's in charge of that? Seems like that's an easy kind of identifiable group to talk to.
Schools, we could definitely, I think it's a question of, is that a priority for the quarter?
Should that be a priority for our quarter? Should we prioritize school engagement this quarter?
I think it's on there and it's specific. I think that's an easy start.
Expert, yeah.
School is getting out for summer. I wanna make sure.
That's true. Yeah, it might be a tough one for the summer.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure college and high school communities are on our
Actually, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. People have time in the summer to discuss it and put more time in. Like when school starts, people are overloaded and fried, you know?
And plans are in place.
There's also more like, you know, there's I don't know, Iman, you have more experience with like youth than we do and stuff like that, but they are more out like and doing activities and things like that. So there could be a chance to like maybe not schools specifically, but youth engaging them in other like in community organizations or places that are trying to keep kids busy during the summer. So
Yeah, I
they get in
was
trouble.
telling that to Kip earlier, is that there's, especially with June and July, there's a lot of different events that are coming down the pipeline just to keep the kids involved and all that. Just last week, I was at the North Precinct for the Community Peace Collaborative meeting, and pretty much a majority of the conversation on there was about youth and how to keep them busy throughout the summer and what they're gonna do. So I think there's definitely events that are gonna be planned, and I think that's a great way for for us to be around those youth and.
Right. Sounds like youth is a community group that we can focus on. Any other ones that we could focus I would like to have 2 at least.
That'd be great, and I think that'd be great.
So we could do youth, and then like, is there an area of the city that we would wanna focus on more and maybe have community event, or like our community meetings there to try to get input and insight?
David,
Like a district that we can focus on this quarter, maybe?
David Douglas, Southwest. David Douglas.
Hazelwood neighborhood, David Douglas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that
David
area?
Douglas.
Okay.
And that's district.
So if we focus on those 2, I guess, kind of affinity group stakeholders this summer and having those. Yeah, I wonder, then I think that we have a good start for focus for community engagement to source and be in community and hear what those, like, what, their needs are, and bring that to the next steering committee.
So that would be district.
Yeah, let's do 1.
AT. District 1 is Douglas.
Okay, yeah, so let's just say District 1. I think that's great because, and you could do like 1 district per quarter or something. That would be like a great way to think about it.
Well, that seems
too easy.
reasonable.
Yeah, well, that's
Seems
kind of
too
what I was
reasonable for this group.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to walk away with, just kind of like, where should we start community engagement? Because yeah, to your point, then that's, yeah, to your point.
Yeah, and I like that, having like 1 that's like space bound and 1 that's like a different kind of special like group that we want to reach out to. I think that's a great start. I think that will get the ball rolling for you guys.
So with that, Iman?
So just very quickly, I want to honor what we said. So from the public, are there any thoughts on sort of some of the decisions that have been made around this? Any adjustments you would suggest?
Can I say something really fast? I'm sorry, Gabby.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I also, to some extent, I think we should be thinking about like where we're targeting our outreach by precinct, because that's like also how data is like collected, and we see like issues happening like by precinct rather than like District 1. Just a way to like interact with PPB data is just, I'm just going to bring that up. Just a thought.
That is a lot of the.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I there's a challenge to that though. But
It's a good thought. I think something we could
I like
explore.
it.
Yeah. Can I just get a clarifying question? You're trying to speak with like young people, that's who you're specifically trying to target?
That's 1.
So
One
youth,
community.
yeah, youth ranges between like, now what are, who are?
Well, that's just for our members.
Oh, okay, fair enough, yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the goal of that, the most recent.
The goal of engaging with youth.
Yeah, so it is with, okay. Is with youth.
There's a fear
Great.
that they have. Unknown language of what that is. Like you was talking
With
about.
police.
Understanding how that come about.
And the goal isn't necessarily to be like, to inoculate them and be like, no, don't, they're our friends or something, like, it's more to understand their concerns and like listen and like, provide recommendations on what the PPB and like the city could be doing better. So that that fear is not like, it's valid for a reason, right? So we're trying to address like. where that
That's helpful, thank you, I feel like I just missed that conversation.
There's something you have though. What is it that we missed?
No, I was just going to affirm, I think doing it by district is a good idea because then you can include city councilors. That this is just a huge priority right now, so I just think that's a really smart move. I understand the precinct position, but I do think doing it by district is a better.
the precincts don't align with the districts, like St. John's is a no man's land, so.
Yeah, I think that's why district is a better.
And we can always try it out and see, and this is new.
Yeah. Charlie?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just hop in on this. As I mentioned before, the Police Accountability Commission, we had some amazing public engagement meetings all over Portland. And we focused on not necessarily districts, but all the different neighborhoods. So we got the people of those neighborhoods, and they really showed up in force and had a lot to say, and a lot of things they would say in our meetings they wouldn't say in a meeting with cops there. You know, so I don't know who organized our meetings, but they did an amazing job, and they reached out to the people that aren't being reached out to. So I just also want to say that all this work that everybody's doing for police accountability, which again, you know how I feel about that, until there's a change in systemic issues, which everybody shies away from because racism is one of them. It's one of the major ones. And yeah, that needs to be a priority. And that's going to take a lot of healing, a lot of honesty, a lot of work. But I feel like nothing's going to change until we actually get in touch with that systemic issue amongst many others. So keep that in mind. That's a healing process. People have to heal from their racism, so they'll quit stereotyping and targeting and doing I'm sorry, this topic always upsets me because I've been a witness to police violence my entire life. And so many people just look at them and see the propaganda that's out there. So please, let's get real. Let's get fucking real. Okay? Thank you.
Charlie.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie.
you.
Thanks, Charlie. See any other hands? So, yeah, I just want to respect everyone's time, so we might just kind of end abruptly, but I think this is really good work. Definitely gives me more clarity, and so hopefully our members feel that way, and we so appreciate you, the public, for chiming in and helping guide us. So thank you for your time and oh yes, and thank you so much, Independent Monitor. We really love having you.
You doing the work.
Yeah, we're all doing the work. So yeah, please take some food home if you would like. Lots of food and drinks. And yeah, and stay tuned. And we're gonna actually do all this stuff.
This quarter.
Yeah, this quarter.
Yeah.
This is the.
We'll have it wrapped up by August.
And then in 3 months, we'll be doing this again and seeing what we did do and what you've been on track.
You need to run.
That's great. I'm gonna have to do that in my personal life. Really seriously.
Yes.
Okay.
Friend's house.
Recording stopped.
Right on.